Hello, my name is Samantha Mitchell, and this is...
I'm Sam Solomon-Burnden.
Alrighty, and today we're going to be talking about sleeping arrangement for newborns. Becoming a parent for the first time is stressful. There are a lot of factors to consider when becoming a new parent, such as where and how the baby will sleep. Most parents will buy cribs and bassinets for their children to sleep in, and some parents will sleep with their babies in their own beds, which is called bed sharing or room sharing. Some parents will set up the baby's cribs and bassinets in their children's rooms, and some parents will put their bassinets and cribs in their own rooms. Either way you decide is your choice as a parent, but there are studies and research done on the subject to help make an educated and guided decision. Discussing newborn sleeping patterns and hygiene, it's important to note that we still don't fully understand how much sleep is normal for an infant. In this article, What is Normal Infant Sleep? It discusses that, so for all we know is infant sleep needs sleep just like all humans do. Infants need sleep just like all humans do for survival. Lack of sleep in newborn can be noticed by babies being irritable and acting out of character. Medical professionals have viewed infant sleep over time, and medical views on infant sleep is still unclear. Social and cultural norms can also play a part into what we think infant sleep should look like, with medical professional opinions aside. When considering sleeping arrangements for newborns babies, one way to consider sleeping with your baby is co-sleeping. Co-sleeping is sleeping with your children in your own bed instead of them sleeping in a bassinet or a crib. In the article, Co-Sleeping as a Proximal Context for Infant Development, the article discusses how co-sleeping and physical touch can be beneficial for babies and their families. Instead of research the negatives of co-sleeping, this article discusses how encouraging and engaging in safe co-sleeping methods for both babies and their parents. This article shows the positives of co-sleeping and bed sharing by highlighting the benefit of physical touch between parents and newborns. Co-sleeping helps babies bond with their parents and brings them closer to their parents with the skin-to-skin contact that takes place when bed sharing. Another article, What Pediatricians Tell Parents About Bed Sharing. This article touches on a pediatrician's point of view on bed sharing. This article discusses sudden infant death syndrome, and it talks about how bed sharing can sometimes lead to sudden infant death syndrome due to suffocation or accidentally rolling over onto the baby or pushing them off the bed. But there are other studies done that actually show that sharing a bed with your baby in bed sharing has actually shown a reduction in sudden infant death syndrome because of the parent being close to the child. They end up noticing differences in breathing, differences in just like their appearance in general, just because they're just so used to being so close to the baby. And what usually looks normal, it will cause the parent to bring in the child to the hospital and it can actually end up saving children's lives. The article does highlight how sudden infant death syndrome is actually the leading cause of post-neonatal mortality in the United States, and discusses how bed sharing influences those numbers in ways mentioned like before, negatively and positively. It's dependent, it fluctuates, it changes. There are always two sides to the story, and the negative side of effects of bed sharing. In the article, Bed Sharing in Early Childhood, it discusses how bed sharing can relate to impairments in child's sleep quantity and quality, which is a factor to consider when thinking about newborn sleeping arrangements. Something to consider when reading this article and its views on bed sharing is that the study relies on caregivers' reports to measure children's sleeping patterns, which is important to note that because caregivers could possibly be giving a false representative or false information, which would make the study itself screwed. This article brings in a new term for bed sharing called co-sleeping. Each mean that the parent and the child is sleeping in the same bed. This article discusses about the impact on children's sleep when co-sleeping. The study shows inconsistencies with the quality and quantity of children's sleep. Which basically is saying that some children slept great co-sleeping, some children don't while co-sleeping, so it ends up being more of an independent issue rather than something that could be solved just by doing a big study. It's just dependent on you and your child. while we've had the pediatrician's point of view on bed sharing and co-sleeping, there's another article written by anthropologists on their point of view of bed sharing and co-sleeping. Anthropology is a study of human societies and cultures and their development. So this point of view is from how bed sharing and co-sleeping is interpreted through different societies and cultures and how it affects children's developments. Well, there was an article we talked about earlier written by a pediatrician that talks about sudden infant death syndrome and its negatives. Like I highlighted earlier, there are positives, which is what this article dives into, of how it actually can reduce sudden infant death syndrome. So it's just interesting to see how those contradict one another. Another article on mother-infant co-sleeping discusses sudden infant death syndrome, but also discusses how bed sharing promotes closeness between their parents and their infants. This article also notes that bed sharing promotes breastfeeding, making it easier for mothers to breastfeed their children, as well as their children being more willing to breastfeed due to the feeling of closeness they feel with their parents while bed sharing. That's important to note, is how the child feels closer to their parents when bed sharing, and the positives of breastfeeding when bed sharing. But in conclusion, sleeping arrangements for newborns is a personal choice for parents. And while there are research parents can do on sleeping arrangements for newborns, the right decision is individually dependent. Positive factors with bed sharing and room sharing are reduction in sudden infant death syndrome, promotes breastfeeding, promotes closeness between parents and their infants. Negative factors with bed sharing and room sharing is impacts on marital satisfaction, and marital sex life, which is basically when you have a child in the bed, you can't exactly engage in sexual activities with your partner, which can cause problems with marital satisfaction. However, it can also increase marital satisfaction because you have the ease of mind knowing that your child is safe and sound because they're right next to you. With all things considered, newborn sleeping arrangements are a choice is dependent on the parents and their comfortability and the newborns and their comfortability. Thank you for listening to my speech. Any questions? Alrighty. Thank you.